Una vez más, con el mejor juego en la historia, Final Fantasy VIII. No hay nada mejor que esto.
The PlayStation 5 generation has been a bit of a train wreck, because think about it, man, this is the console generation that's had the least first-party PlayStation games. PlayStation Game Studios feels like they've put almost nothing. We've got a couple bangers like Returnal, God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, Astrobot, but for the most part, I feel like this generation is very much going to be reviewed in a negative light. But today, we got our first leak that seems to be 100% true about the PlayStation 6, and it sounds like the tactic coming up is going to be twofold. It sounds like with the PlayStation 6, according to these leaks, the system is going to be made cheaper. Like they're actually going to try to make the next generation lower cost and also have a hands-on. Now, these leaks we're talking about today are coming from Moore's Law is Dead. This guy's actually done a bunch of different leaks. In fact, some of his videos have been so accurate, Sony has taken them down because he literally leaks actual dead accurate information, and Sony lawyers got pissed. But let's talk about these leaks today, because a lot of people are kind of picking apart whether this idea of a PS5 Pro is going to be good as PlayStation 6. Let's break it down. Hi, hope you're having a great day. I am Dreamcast Guy, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, now, these specs are very strange, because this guy is the thing where his last big leak was at the PS5 Pro specs, and they were 100%, like every single part of it was 100% accurate. Now, we have a lot of numbers to go through, but this leak is very interesting because it's two separate things at once. It's the PS6 handheld, and it's also the PlayStation 6 itself. Now, these are going to be separate systems. According to these leaks, they're trying to get it ready to go by late 2027 or early 2028, which is surprisingly soon. It is weird to kind of consider the fact that the PlayStation 5 generation, even though this was 7 years long, it still feels short, because typically, when it comes to PlayStation generations especially, I feel like we sort of measure time by exclusives. The amount of time between Infamous Second Son and the God of War reboot stuff. It feels like this generation, we're remembering stuff like Concord more than the next Last of Us Part 3 or something like that. But, now, a lot of this stuff is very, very technical. I'm going to go through the parts of this that are less technical, but before I actually filmed this video, I talked to a buddy who actually does a lot of tech stuff for me. I've got a guy who basically helps design my computers and do all the stuff that really I'm not the best at. And I asked him specifically, I actually sent him this list of stuff about the PlayStation 6 specs, and I said, how good is this? How mind-blowing is this? Is the PlayStation 6 really that big of a leap over the PlayStation 5? They actually replied this. Zen 6 doesn't even exist yet, so presumably this will be quite a decent upgrade considering the PS5 Pro, or sorry, the PS5 itself is a Zen 2 core. Think AMD CPU from 2019, current PC on Zen 5. I personally went from Zen 2 to Zen 4 playing that was pretty cute. While Zen 5 released this upgrade, so it does sound like this is going to be a pretty big deal. Also, more and more Moore's dies around new technology. Now, Moore's Law is actually a goal testament to the fact that basically technology doubles every 6 years. This is like an old sort of like computing test. Originally, computers used to be the size of an entire warehouse with simple computation, but they got better, faster, and smaller, especially with the invention of microchips, better transistors and stuff. Moore's Law essentially stated that things would always be doubled. But when we get to this point where we're sort of bumping up against the edges of current technological advancement. I mean, we've heard a certain amount of efficiency in graphics. It does seem like the PlayStation 6 can't be double the power of the PlayStation 5. It's just not really going to be possible unless it's 12 years in the future. You know, PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, graphics were twice as good. PS2 to PS3, graphics were twice as good. We've been able to hit that new generation beforehand, but with the PlayStation 6, it's just not going to be able to be done. Okay, here's the thing some people have been talking about. 106 watt total power motherboard seems lower than the PS5, which is good. It sounds like Sony is putting a lot of investment. A lot of these specs seem that they're really sort of focusing on the idea of making the PlayStation 6 as efficient as possible. And this isn't an accident. It's part of this twofold approach. When the PlayStation 6 comes out, there's also going to be a PlayStation 6 handheld. Now, they're calling it the PS6 down. It sounds like it's going to be able to stream PlayStation 6 games to it, but we'll be able to install PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games in the PlayStation. See here, a lot of the stuff about this sounds like it's pretty dang strong. Should be able to beat the ROG Ally X, which is coming out later this year. That's like that new Xbox handheld, giant air quotes. Backwards compatible with PS5 and PS4. Also will have an MSD slot into SSD slot, meaning that basically it sounds like you'll be able to literally take your current memory card from your PlayStation 5 with all your games installed and immediately plug it into this. It'll play it. It'll work completely. This is interesting, but a lot of people basically said that the big hurdle with a lot of these handhelds is the ability to make them efficient power-wise, because nobody wants to have crazy graphics if the battery life is 90 minutes, right? That's part of the thing I haven't been loving about my Nintendo Switch 2, is that I find myself when I'm playing my Nintendo Switch 2 at the gym on the treadmill and stuff, I'm typically playing Valorant. I don't want to actually play games with graphics on the treadmill because it's going to sap the battery before you become hurt. So it sounds like they're trying to make the PlayStation 6 more efficient, so the PlayStation 6 handheld can be more efficient. Now, the other parts of this, though, is that it really just makes it sound like a lot of the numbers in here are stuff that we know is in development, but just isn't out yet, right? Interesting to do this talk about AMD trying to convince PlayStation to share a PC board, probably to make it cheaper in bulk, affordable with half the CPU power, count all 9% of power. So this is one of the things. Now I do want to make a note. My buddy told me that I'm supposed to say he just woke up. This is chicken scratch by his. I'm just spitballing. I'm trying to off the cuff explain it to you while I'm at work. I could rewrite this back. So if there's some parts of this that mathematically don't make sense, don't harp on it too much. But basically, what he's talking about that is that some of the stuff in here in this Moore's Law leak is that it sounds like they're trying to make it maybe sort of closer to a PC on the chip build side of it. Now, the reason they want that is because one of the things that makes the PlayStation 5 expensive as it was, and Sony has talked about this, is that they have a custom chipset. It means you go to AMD and you say, we're trying to do this. What can you come up with? And they go, okay, we'll make you a custom chip for your system to make the graphics, the efficiency, everything as high as possible. But you better order 50 million, right? We're going to sign this 10-year contract producing PlayStation 5s. But it's going to be more expensive because we're not just taking off-the-shelf parts. It sounds like Sony is talking to them and saying, okay, When is going to be the next AMD chipset? What's going to be the next AMD board that is introduced in PCs? How can we get that and then adapt it to the PlayStation 6? That way, producing the PlayStation 6 as it possibly can be. We want the graphics to be good, we want the games to be good, but we don't want to have a $1,000 console. Now, why do I mention $1,000? There have been a lot of leaks.
Sánchez, ¿no? Si lo ubicas. Supongo que va a venir a traer la entrevistamos por Zoom y le mandamos su ficha para que tiene. Y ya. Espero que la siguiente semana esté igual de movida que esta para seguir sumando más gente, flaco. Y nada, que tengas bonito fin de semana. Cuídate mucho. Besos. Y confieso que me la estoy tomando tranquila, pero me siento agotada emocionalmente de estar rompiendo conversaciones y historias que tienen los boleros molestos, enojados. Me agoté, me siento agotada. No manches. No te lo quería compartir.
get it out the door. Right? We've already seen Xbox official cryptic statement. Sarah Bond, the president of Xbox, has completely come out and said, yes, we can next gen. Yes, next gen is going to be free. All I will say is that what's about to happen is that Microsoft has said they're not going to stop subsidizing because they make all their money back. Every they sell PlayStation, they get a 30% back. It's already paid back. We got everything makes PlayStation. And they said they made it now. Because they know they can take it back. They're just nobody plays classic like an Xbox console. When you use my third-person Xbox console, they play yes, very different going to be held back by the solution and held back. In addition, I'm interested in the position and the difference between the PlayStation 6 especially for next year, I've seen a lot of folks freaking about this over on which feels like you could have skipped this entire console generation and not really missed that much. These big budget titles have gotten way out of hand. I can't even imagine what Intergalactic or the next Sony Santa Monica game will look like. What could they possibly be to justify it? It'd be very interesting to see what PlayStation 6 Portable ends up costing. The biggest unknown about how many will be charging Sony for this custom APU, like the Xbox One now, which off the shelf system on chip. This could be a very unique chip for just this console. It could be quite a bit more powerful than the Nintendo Switch 2, but again, if it's mainly targeted to the Wii, it could use current-gen titles with big quality FPS. As PlayStation 6 games, whatever form of FFR are going to utilize is going to be putting in that work. I must admit that I'm in a spot where I want to see what this looks like, but I do think it really does come down to games. There was a huge adoption rate of people going from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. I must admit that despite the PS5 shortages and stuff, I was very blown away by the amount of people straight to PS5, despite the fact that there wasn't that many. Now, there wasn't that many games that were handled for such educated grief. There were some games that looked way better on PlayStation 5, games that ran better on PlayStation 5, games that were both times on PlayStation 5, but the amount of people that were straight to PS4 and PS5 before the library even really got a chance to build up. I think when it comes to PlayStation 6, the biggest mistake that Sony needs to avoid is doing better at actually saying, hey, this is the PlayStation 6, and it already has these 10 games ready to go. Is that going to happen? Absolutely not. But it's possible. PlayStation 6 realistically do they think that could be legit? As far as that is very, very legit. I think if this is real, if the graphics are going to be good, people are trying to say that it's a Xbox Series X sort of situation where right now one of the things a lot of developers think about is that playing games on Xbox, making games on Xbox is difficult to run the same on Xbox Series X. That's the point. That's the thing. I've seen some people say that also that videos or follow me for any amount of time, you know it's very tough to rattle me, make me upset, or make me angry.
But this entire beat-em-up situation is insane and has me so frustrated that I had to make a video immediately to give you my reaction and really tell you exactly what's going down here and open up the flavor. Look, I stopped mid-salad. Okay, that's how serious I take this. Is that you think lying to your audience is something that should be normalized or made okay? And honestly, I see right through everything Beat-em-up says he's trying to do. And as a YouTuber of over 15 years, open the flavor for you. He thinks you won't know this, but I do. I'll share it with you because the fact of the matter is, beat-em-ups did not do this for the greater good of the community, and beat-em-ups did not own all of the fake leakers. Beat-em-ups owned himself. What's going on really gets out which wars right off the bat. Leveraging your relationship and trust with your audience to conduct an experiment or any sort of thing that betrays that trust, I think is wrong. I don't think it's funny, I don't think it's clever, I don't think it's interesting, I don't think it's believable. Beat-em-ups, here's the path.
I think very much. You want this information, what you will. There's going to be an attendant track. He's on now.
He claimed that he knew there were Nintendo Direct. Back on June 1st, he said that in July, there's a Nintendo Direct. Okay, he said it on the podcast. He said he can't say how the thing is, but he knows the Nintendo Direct is like the Nintendo days. Animal Crossing Okay, so YouTube started, website started, Reddit started, Twitter started, everyone started covering this leak that he said was a leak. He said it. And there's some nuance here that makes this so different than the experiment claims he's trying to do. And I'm going to explain that to you too. He said he hates this.
They release prizes based on moments that we love. And we've been curious to fake leaks, yes, traction. That is something so insanely vain or viral.
He had to figure out how leaks work so that he could stop leaks. And he doesn't want fake leaks to happen. It sort of sounds like he doesn't really leaks to happen. He doesn't like leaks. The purpose of this law of betraying the trust of all of his audience was for the community to support you. But the fact of the matter is that's just not true. First of all, this entire experiment only works for one reason and one reason only. If I did this experiment, it probably would not work. But Beat-em-ups is the largest individual Nintendo content creator probably in the world. That puts him in a super unique position where people are paying attention, people trust him, people believe in him, people like him, and websites, YouTubers, and accounts are going to pay attention because it's him. This is not an experiment about how leak spreads. This is an experiment about how behavior in a specific genre, a piece of user content, has an audience. We knew that he had an audience, and I was one of them. I've always respected and liked Beat-em-up's content. There were things I noticed really early on, like how he casually walked around as he talked, invaded and so on. That was really cool and personable, and I even tried to learn from him a bit, see what he did so well. I thought the guy was a genuinely good dude. And now I kind of think this is just a super jerk move. He says that he regrets the whole thing.
I don't know really a GameCube. I heard it was training directors podcast. Which is pretty finished with tremendous rates. I even ate the belt to the show up. Even content. Sorry about that, man. It's very embarrassing. I didn't really think of this one.
He says he's sorry for the whole thing. He says he did not know who love was. This guy is the same fandom, audience, and channel. He's ran it for many years. He makes a ton of money that he knows what he's doing. There are two options here for Beat-em-ups. Guilty, apology, mistake, misstep. Either he's super ignorant, or he's super motivated. And let me tell you, some of the stuff he's a little bit too fast. You know how these things are going to go. There's not of me that believe that Beat-em-ups didn't know how this was going to go. Look, the only reason they got picked up is that Beat-em-ups is huge. I did this or I did this. Beat-em-ups for it being easily successful, like it's not getting picked up by these major websites. YouTuber Switchmore says there's a Nintendo Direct. Dude, I say that all the time. Talks about getting excited about directs all the time. This was different because beat 'em ups carefully established their trust, like a great YouTuber does. Beat 'em ups made sure that he didn't just blab about leaks, he didn't just make things up until he did. And so that when he did, we all took it very seriously. His fans, his fellow friends, even showed that his video that RGT took it seriously.
Go on. Go on. Till my direct. But I don't want to give away the game. So I said, how'd you hear about that? You'll look at the making the rank if your source legit or what? And it's fucking awesome. What do you mean? Taking the round, it was this Reddit thread on gaming leaks and rumors.
He built a rapport with everyone. And we could dive into the wormhole of parasocial relationships and building a connection with your audience, how this just screwed that over. Which is where I think he thinks that he owned the community, he owned fake leakers. In reality, I think most people are going to look at this and say, dude, that was not cool. That was not figuring anything out. We know how to spread. We understand why it looks like a possible. There's a profit run into it. We're waiting for the rest. And all this proves is that when you build up a little trust, when you're in his computer, and you say something, he will listen. Now, I'm going to pick apart his argument because he says a few things to me again in his video that are just silly. He never said it is their source.
Now, I like this one. Inside of me. Inside of me. Did I say inside of me? I know this is what I'm actually not in this article. Just make that one. So he states, I live without this was.
What he said was, I can't tell you how. you how I know. That means he has an insider source. It absolutely means he has an insider source. There's really no way around that. When someone says, I can't tell you how I know this, but I know, it's because you have a source. It's not because you made it yourself. Does anyone believe that Beat-em-Ups is the Animal Crossing director? Does anyone believe he found a secret piece of paper in the manhole covered by his apartment? The only way that he would know, without being able to tell us, is from an insider source. So, you had an insider source, at least in a world where this was a real thing. It wasn't, but you can't be blaming people for saying you had an insider source when that's the only logical explanation for how you got this information. He also says that at different points in the podcast, he said that he wasn't sure about it. He's skeptical about it. Again, I hate this type of loose sort of excuse and loose sort of way to worm your way out of situations. If you're going to leak stuff, you own it and you leak it. You don't later or earlier put caveats and get out of it in the future. You got to be careful with what you say. And Beat-em-Ups knows in a huge platform and huge audience. Those words are important, valuable, and taken seriously. Beat-em-Ups has never been someone making stuff up before. He's never really gotten involved in the leaking community. So having the leak seem like, wow, he's taking a big risk here by putting this out there. It must be legitimate. And you don't need to or shouldn't have to go through the entire podcast if there was a clue along the way that you think he's lying. You shouldn't have to assume that your favorite content creator, the biggest international content creator, is just lying. You shouldn't have to have that in the back of your head that, okay, I gotta watch this whole video and wonder if this person is intentionally lying to me so that they can run an experiment to, oh, by the way, make a big video on and gain a bunch of views. Look, at the end of the day, I don't understand it. I would never do it, but I'm confident that the main motivation behind this was money. At the end of the day, people do YouTube as a job. Yes, many people love video games, and there are tons of small creators that don't make money off this, and do it just for love. But Beat-em-Ups is not one of them. He makes a ton of money. And I'll tell you, as somebody that puts a lot of time and effort into my channel, if I didn't make money off of this, I wouldn't want to do it. The production level that Beat-em-Ups put in is not possible without making money off of it. Beat-em-Ups has a lot of money, and a lot of ways very, very popular film for a long time. It's hard to find. It's very hard. That's where you're staying because he's a good YouTuber. It's a great honest connection with his audience. Thank you for that. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, Beat-em-Ups, you're so cool, you're so smart, like the fanboys, right? They're like, oh my god, it's like, yeah, you're so cool, I can't believe you. What a great experience. But I do think there's going to be a silent majority, actually, that look at this and say, what the heck? What is this trying to achieve? You figured out what the spread do. You know how they spread. Someone says something, if they are a big name or a popularity or castigs, like a name they hate, or a any of these things, if you're a thousand things, or if you're a popular thing, you're going to take note, and you're supposed to go into their way. It's been started by how it is seen. If you think I have other more than
¿Qué onda, Ope? Gracias por estar por acá. Mi juego favorito en la historia. Mejor juego jamás creado, parido. Final Fantasy 8.
This is reputable and trustworthy. That is not how you do it. Most people believe it. You said it. This is hopeful for him. They believed it because you said it. They believed it to millions of subscribers. Countless videos and sponsorship. They watch you go off. confirmation bias is just trust you can't agree. But that's a treatment why figure that out. Here's a really big picture. If you do an experiment, someone did this before. The game explained how it made this really insane. But he made up this like water and started leaks and then tracked and traced this experiment has been done before. When John from the Game Explain Network, or wherever he's gone now, did this leak, he's got like a deep British voice, he made sure it wasn't associated with his persona, so that he didn't leverage his trust with his audience. Beat him up, they go a step further and say, I don't care about that, I'm going to leverage my trust, but this blows up bigger, so that I can make a bigger video, and I can get more views on it. If you didn't tell you that you did not have to get views or money off of this, you did not have to blow up. Dude, genuine, I just don't buy any of them. I don't believe any of them. No. YouTube would never be used. First of all, you have to be smart enough to do this. Post it by yourself, run the business, post these videos, be on camera, not be afraid. Like, there's so much that goes into it, right? There's the editing, there's the posting, there's the search engine optimization, there's the phone, there's so many things. He makes a podcast. He's not dumb. He's not ignorant. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's been very successful at it, which tells you even more. He's really smart and really good for YouTube. So he knew that this was going to blow up. He wanted to make money off it. And he couldn't show you. Do it as an alter ego. With undercover. But he really wanted the experience. Fake news. Make something out of this. He calculatedly sat there and said, I'm going to buy the audience. All this new kilograms that people are so eager for, so excited for, and they trust me so much, it's going to blow up, and then I can make a video called The Experiment. To me, that's a real jerk move. To me, that's taking the one thing that so much time to build that is organic, natural, and impossible just to look at all the people. I can go block views, right? You can go block views. You can go buy an audience following. You can go buy an audience following. But you can't buy real trust. It's not like people can just get. You can't go on the website and be like, okay, you want that follow. Google AdSense to get the trust. You get impressions. You can get views. You can get users to follow you. But it's all natural to build a trust. You can build that up for very long. And very good content. Top-tier content. This guy makes great work. This guy impressed them with everything. Always been a fan. Just like, I respect you. I respect what you do. I respect how you do it. I don't respect it. And then people need to basically put everybody to this on blast. As if they're the dummies. As if they're the big idiots. As if them trusting him and respecting him is somehow a poor reflection on us. No, dude, that's a poor reflection on you. If you leverage the respect and the trust of your colleagues and your audience, you get what you want. Now, what he wanted was pretty small. It was experiments and views. It's not like he wanted to take over the world. I get that. But it's still a kind of nefarious way of looking about this, where popularity and credibility dangled it and said, you suck. I think that's really what the deal is. The opposite. The other thing here is that when you're dealing with leaks, when you're dealing with Nintendo, it's a very big part of the industry. It's a very big part of YouTube. I'm going to tell you something in my theory. The Nintendo Switch 2 was very popular. It's very popular in terms of how it did in the big box retailers, sales for Nintendo. Switch 2 did not move the needle anywhere near Switch 1 did for YouTube. And I think VIII wanted to just find a way, generate some hype, generate some buzz, generate maybe like a big viral. Okay? People are going to come to this now and say, popular YouTuber, Nintendo YouTuber, Woodhawker, beat him up. You know, he did this great experiment. They're going to cover it because he's follow-up on like coverage, nomination, watching people out. He's got all this. He's overdoing the viral. This is a calculated move to get another viral content. The direct link was a calculated move to get one viral content. I'm not the YouTube playbook. I've made videos across multiple channels for 15 years. Calculate this stuff. Think of what you can do to get popular. What you can do to have a video rate pop up. What do you say? tell you something. I've met countless YouTubers that tell you straight up. They don't say what they actually believe. They say what the audience wants to hear. And it's just like, no doubt about a lot of people. They'll do whatever they can to get the most views and make the most money. They'll just say what they feel their audience wants to hear. They'll lean into the negativity, or they'll lean into the rumors, or they'll lean into whatever. If you want your videos to do well, and people want to have their audience like them. Okay, so VIII wanted 2 viral moments, and he used the trust and respect of his community and his peers to get that. And then it was going to backfire, and maybe he realized this wasn't a good idea. He's now going to get another viral moment out of it, so at least get 2 viral moments and everybody talking about it. I'm contributing to this problem by making the video all about it. So even if it's negative, I know this. It's good press, like exposure is good exposure. So I feel if you didn't have a bunch of people coming, no matter what size YouTuber you are, if you're the smallest YouTuber with 20 followers, medium YouTuber with 20,000, big YouTuber with 200,000, or a huge YouTuber with 20 million, you always want to get to the next level. You always want to get more. You always want to succeed and climb and improve. Nobody likes stagnation. Nobody likes decline. I think VIII wanted to get in the mouths of everybody. Journalists, YouTubers, news outlets, websites, video, TikTok, and he did. But at what cost? I think it's really funny also that he picked the answers across the community, knowing that
Así es esto, porque la memoria es corta y a veces no muy profunda. Si Cruz Azul pierde el próximo partido, ahí te cuento lo que va a cargar. Si Cruz Azul gana el siguiente partido y el otro partido
Se va al Atlético de San Luis.
se va a descompensar un poco el asunto de los resultados de la exigencia de inmediato contra la evaluación global del proyecto. Pero pedir la cabeza de la Ramona ahorita, con el recuerdo de Vicente y sobre todo la cabeza de Iván Alonso.
Ya los Cruz Azulinos en redes sociales se lo están pidiendo.
Claro, porque hoy es muy momento el gol.
Ahí lo que sí te digo,
Escuchando a la verdad, me da compasión, no sé cómo. Ahora me tienes que tengo piedad y compasión para él responder, no, gracias, mi padre, y tú, renuncio.
Para ver, si aquí renuncio, no, mejores palabras. Si aquí no te sientes de América tras el resultado, tenía que venirse a comer, tendría que venir a comerse la liga, pues así tiene que venir de Francia. Y es más,
¿de acuerdo?
y ya, para que veas que no siempre atrás la compasión y la piedad, pero sí se está consiguiendo. Si la acabó y Alonso no son campeones, se tienen que ir.
Se tiene que ir.
Claro que sí.
Espérate, yo diría que la Arcamón a lo mejor no llega a terminar.
Pero te lo acaba de decir, consigues que
yo no estoy diciendo que se va a quedar o no, estoy diciendo que si empieza a ganar, se olvida. Así es el fútbol mexicano. Si empieza a perder, lo van a luchar su primera vez y la segunda.
Pero si no es campeón, se tiene que ir a otro.
Pero ¿por qué tienes tanta hueva?
No, porque ¿sabes?
Por el campeón.
Porque el proyecto hoy realmente surgió cimientos, recibimos un tremendo inicio.
Desde que llegó, ¿no? Una final de liga y una final de
El problema con él es que volvió un técnico que llegó a lo que hizo la inversión.
pero a la cuenta que estamos hablando
la inversión que ha tenido este Cruz Azul bajo el gestión de Iván Alonso, no te puedes comparar, no te puedes conformar con esas dos claro.
Y entonces también es, oye, Vicente, que bueno, que bien que lo hizo, pero tenía una plantilla que le armó Alonso, no la armó Vicente, que le heredó al Celso. Entonces ahí es el director deportivo construyendo a partir de un presupuesto que puede ser poco, mucho.
Hablas del diseño de la plantilla que le hizo a Luis Sánchez.
Le hizo al Celso y que formó ese Sánchez.
Ahora es una plantilla que diseña junto al Arcamón.
Pues por eso mismo,
Pero y esperaban el que tanto nos metieron durante las últimas 3 semanas, de ahí no lleva la responsabilidad del director deportivo.
Pero hay que ver quién llega en lugar de él, ¿no? Porque no ha acabado la gestión y el campeonato está empezando, o sea, son 3 jornadas.
¿Cuándo va a llegar?
No sé, yo no. Hay que ver.
Claro, es responsabilidad del director deportivo. El jugador ya debió de haber estado, pero y dependió siempre. Tú también iba a llegar a nunca, ¿a quién?
¿Al Dan Alonso?
Pero hablando de eso, pero sí te digo que
si no es campeón, sí se tendré con esto.
Que hay un espacio tremendo con el proyecto de Alonso, pero no me das cuenta. Es difícil como técnico
¿no, Mario? Lograr revertir la situación a partir de una goleada así. ¿Qué le hablas a tu equipo? ¿Qué le dices? ¿Cómo puedes revertir la situación? Yo veo al Arcamón, no es para menos, pero lo veo knockout, lo veo fuera. No sé mañana cómo se levante, qué piensas para hablar con los jugadores y hasta recuperarte. Y aparte hay dos caminos, al margen de lo atinado en mis comentarios de mis compañeros.
Gracias.
Hay dos momentos, simplemente a todo entrenador le pasa esto, a todo entrenador, hasta el mejor entrenador comete el 7. A uno de tus cuatro de un 7 que va a ser nacional, a todo el mundo le ven 100 partidos.
Siguió como mundial, pero tenía un mundial, pero ya que hombre, ya con encima desconfiada, hermano.
Hola Luigi, ¿cómo estás?
Hola Mini Mini, ¿cómo estamos?
Bien.
Qué bien, Mini Mini.
Ahorita a las 3:30 voy porque voy en Atachio.
¿Ya te vas?
A las 3:30.
¿Qué hora tienes ahorita? Es que para mí son las 4:27.
Las 3:27.
Ah, bueno, en 3 minutitos. ¿Está bien?
Aneta los Luigi Mexa browse y apoya a seguir streamando. https://www.youtube.com/@luigimexa/join. Luigi y mi tengo que regreso más tarde.
Nos vemos, mini mini.
ladies and gentlemen, we have officially entered the twilight zone. Absolute lunacy out there right now. Pricing across the board. I mean, prices are going up all over the place. It's weird to think back 5 years as to how much they cost to where they are now. However, when we just whittle it down to gaming, this is very strange stuff. Used to prices going down after 3 or 4 years of being and it's actually going up in price, which sounds like lunacy. But that's what we're looking at here today because Nintendo pushed out a pricing update, and one that has people looking back and forth all over the internet right now. We're gonna break down what's happening here and why, yes, this could end up becoming a thing for the Switch 2 itself. Also, so if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want. But in the weekend, it's going to be here, and it'll be quieter for viewers. Friday, so I think, see if there's another video. Big thing right now, guys, because this was posted over on Nintendo Switch pricing update. It's a pricing for the original Nintendo Switch family of systems and products will change in the United States based on market conditions effective August 3rd, 2025. So we'll see that Sunday basically, right before we open for retail and stuff. So Monday, new week and stuff there, sure. But August 3rd. These include an Switch OLED model. Other Nintendo's sound clock alarm. We'll see if the alarm was going up on the price. You might as well follow for it. Then pricing for the Switch 2 system, physical and digital Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 games, as well as those online memberships will remain unchanged at this time. However, please note that price adjustments may be necessary in the future. They have this time officially shared how much that price increase is going to be. In fact, I mean, if you look at it, they say the pricing is going to change. That technically could mean, I get it, what people are saying, it could mean it's going down. No, have you ever read this before? Like any of these things? Because all of the companies, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, put out statements using the term current market or market conditions. Have you ever read that and then thought, oh wow, this is good news? Now it's always prices are good. So yeah, you're going to see prices increase for the system that's 8 years now into its generation, which sounds absurd, right? Well, pricing details started to get out there because lo and behold, we're getting behind it. Now we're not going to be today. We're just going to start talking about these prices. And because basically, the back end websites, those like they started to update pricing as well. So we got it there. Price increases right now. This is going on airports.
¿Qué onda, chiquitín?
¿Qué hace?
Nada, aquí en casa de mi papá.
Voy ahorita a casa de Agustina a jugar un poco de juegos de video por si quieres y más tarde voy al ¿cómo se llama el casinito? A un torneo de póker, pues también por si se te apetece, tío. Y en la noche tengo la apertura de un antro. No estoy chupando, pero podríamos ir si quieres.
Va, me late. Me late.
Cuando quiera.
Deja checo que mi coche está en el taller, a ver si mi papá me presta uno. Y si no, pues te caigo en Uber o algo y ya me puedo mover contigo, ¿no?
Exacto.
Ya.
Órale.
Ya quedó chiquitino.
Te quiero.
Y a ti, chiquitino.
comparing them here. So the Switch OLED, $350 to $450 increase there. Yes, I know you're thinking that's awfully close to the Switch 2 price. $50 off, yeah. That one when $50 more gets you the Switch 2, and maybe there's a psychological element there from Nintendo's perspective, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the reasoning, of course, that people are kicking back and forth over this. The OLED model that going from $330, the Switch Lite for $230, alarm $8 increase. The Joy-Con 2 controller, by the way, $100 now. Oh, and a third. That it's so weird to think that the controller, like the one they come with by default with the Switch 2, $100 are good Joy-Cons. In 2017, when we first got word that the no Joy-Cons were $80, I mean, it was chaos. Now, yeah, $100 pair of Joy-Cons for the Switch 2, and it's like the worst way to play the thing dock, really. I mean, you don't really have many options at hand on how to get it. But dock, it's like you get the Pro Controller. However, the Pro Controller is most likely going up in price because we also have seen so far listing for the Switch Pro Controller going to $80. It's getting quite expensive out there for gaming at this time. But the idea of this naturally people became part of the condition. What happened today that may have caused this? Now, about a month ago, we heard that Canada was going to see a price increase as well for the last generation system with the Switch 1, and that was weird. That threw everyone off. Like, Switch 1? Yeah, that's not the thing that a lot of people are pointing to because it does line up naturally with the tariffs. And right now, the countries that Nintendo is most reliant on for Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 manufacturing would be Japan, Vietnam, and China. China is going back and forth with the US. About 30% tariffs, my understanding. However, if you look over on the White House website, we can search through and look to see how things are, say, for Japan with 15%. These would be, they have your reciprocal tariffs. So that's a 15%. Vietnam, though, which is kind of this out for Nintendo as to trying to figure out how to get around some stuff. 20%, okay. That, and then China, which I know their accessories, Evo stuff, things like that, do come out of China still. So those are definitely going to price there. But you look at this and it's going to pay 20% and then 50% for Japan. Shaving up a large amount of tariffs. That can put a company like Nintendo in a precarious situation because as much, I'm sure as we would go, hey, they should do makes sense. They're trying to sell stuff, get people on board. Well, they're not in a user acquisition phase for the Switch 1 anymore. Like, that's pretty quick. That system has as much as it's going on, you're still going to sell some, as we've seen in their financial results. And again, I think I'll go over tomorrow because there is very interesting information there. They sold less than 1 million systems last quarter for the Switch 1. They're through that now, so it's weird that they go, hey, it's $400 for the Switch OLED, but maybe in their mind they're thinking, hey, you know, this actually makes the Switch 2 look a little cheaper, doesn't it? Why would I buy that Switch OLED if I can spend $50 more and get the Switch 2? So the thing I come back to with this, however, and look, the reason you're seeing increases on accessories because they've already done this, keep that in mind. When the Switch 2, the pre-orders were going to go live, remember there was a whole thing about them pulling the Switch 2 pre-orders back, and they were like, hey, we have to evaluate market conditions and stuff. Love that word, sure. But they were looking at like, hey, can we, instead of raise the price on the Switch 2, can we take it and spread it out across all these different accessories, raise those by $5 to $10, so it's not like, hey, the Switch 2 is $500 or $550. How can we mitigate the loss here or the added cost by spreading it out? That's what they're doing here. That's why the accessories going up because of that. Yeah, they're simple. So they haven't needed to raise. So this is another thing they can do, and I think they will for the Switch 2. They haven't raised cost for NSO. They're really sticking to the right now, but that will get down to here. Expanding back to your here. why did they not just raise the Switch 2 price? To be honest, because they're still in the user acquisition phase. Like, they would be in the user acquisition phase for, I think, minimum the first 2 years. And what that means is they're trying to do whatever they can to keep the price within a reasonable range that they have deemed fit for the market, which $450 is actually on the cheaper end now. I think we're seeing PC has the market. I mean, it's getting out of control. I saw one go up today. It looks cool. It's like full screen handheld. Yeah, and I see this. Oh yeah, it's over $1,000. Okay, but it was cool to look at. It's kind of, but we're seeing this more and more frequently, where PC gaming handheld space is like $1,000. So in that sense of, hey, this is a way to play some of these bigger games like this, go. Hey, $450. That's not bad for the market that it's sitting in right now. The Steam log out, that kind of stuff. So, in a sense, Nintendo has figured out a spot for it, but they need to get more and more people on board, and the way to make that more and more difficult is to raise the price that they're venturing. Look, this isn't exclusive to Nintendo. It's a common practice for these companies for the longest time. Lose money on hardware initially, and then make it up on the back end with software. Nintendo, though, likes to make money on hardware day one if they can. But I will tell you now, what we're seeing with the margins seem to slim more and more, I'm really surprised if they're making any kind of money on the Switch 2 in the US. I have a feeling they're either breaking even or even losing a little bit of money. And that's one of the reasons that, yes, they are preparing people, will say, in this statement, where they mentioned that, hey, pricing for the Switch 2 and physical and digital games, all this stuff, it might go up in the future. You might say, why digital games? Yes, they would work to spread it out across all these different businesses, so it isn't a $100 pricing system. And again, I'd love for the companies to put the price on this. But I feel like I've explained it well enough. You can come to this channel long enough. You know how I view a lot of these companies, and generally I view them as acting in the interest of the lot of sites. It's all those titles. So that's one of the reasons I'm not surprised when they go, hey, prices have to go up. That's kind of it. So that's why I'm not necessarily my surprise as much. This one, though, because if the Switch 1 is the ball wheel, but that's the times we're in right now are strange. You know, I thought, someday maybe I will have to be that old person in the room who's talking to the grandkids. Like, well, back in my day, the controllers were wired. We used to have to put a disc into the system, our cartridge, play our games, and prices would go down over time. Like, we would end up with a much cheaper system by the end of it. We can already do that, which again is absolutely insane. But that's just where we are right now. So I guess look forward to August 3rd for Nintendo to issue the official price sheet for all of this stuff. And I expect like the Switch 2 Pro controller and every other accessory to go up. And man, those Amiibos were already expensive. And like we're seeing $40 Amiibos, I'm trying to figure out, are we about to see $50 Amiibos? Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments with Nintendo raising price of the Switch Line system. Leaving the Switch 2 alone, but how long? I guess we'll find out as we get through the holidays and then into 2026. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
This celebrates B-Stars. When I'm recording this a little bit over a day after the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase of July 31st, 2025. And sure enough, like every partner showcase, be it a mini or a full one, like playing bands, in an uproar. And I think to an extent, understandably so, because going into this presentation, we had many questions. And while we knew, given that this was a partner showcase, that we wouldn't be getting all the answers, we thought we would at least get some. But after the partner showcase, myself had more questions about what was going on. I was unsure about what I wanted. And at first, I was disappointed by this show. And I'll tell you, the day before this show, I was typing this presentation because I thought it was going to be a very good partner showcase. I argued that this was going to be the best partner showcase of all time. And my immediate reactions after the show yesterday, I did not feel that way. But after thinking about everything, looking at these games more closely, playing a demo for a particular game, I gotta say, well, you know what? This might actually be the best partner showcase we've ever gotten. Perhaps the bar isn't very high for a partner showcase, but this partner showcase actually low-key cooked, and I want to talk about that. But also talk about these questions we still have about the presentation that we got as answers. It looks like we have in regards to the Nintendo games as well. So really, there's a lot to get into today. Before we do it, let me tell you about the Minecraft Safe Edition no-slip thumb grips from controller. The sponsor for today's video. These thumb grips fit on both the Switch 1 and Switch 2 Pro controllers, as well as the Switch 2 Joy-Con. They are pretty easy to flip on, and as advertised, they offer great grip and comfort. I normally don't like adding thumb grips to my controllers, but the quality of these grips is so low. So you can check out these Minecraft Safe no-slip thumb grips from controller. The link in the description below. Okay, so while we have got some interesting updates in regard to the Nintendo titles that are supposedly coming this year, let me first just focus on what this partner showcase was. Many people are saying it was a bad direct, but I look at the game, and these are the games it's supposed to show us instead of sharing here, and there are some pretty significant titles. Borderlands 4, Persona 3 Reload. Those are some pretty big games that a lot of people are looking forward to. Yakuza Kiwami 2, that's another big deal. We're also getting upgrades for Yakuza Kiwami on Switch 2. And we actually finally got some Switch 1 games on top of that. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, we all assumed was coming to Switch 2, it's rated for Switch 2, is also surprisingly coming to Switch 1. The leak about Plants vs. Zombies Replanting, which we had talked about, likely showing up in the Direct, did show up in the Direct. And there were other nice games like Pac-Man World 3 Pack 2. And the show closed with Octopath Traveler 0 in Switch 1 and Switch 2. And this is a big deal game. This is the next Octopath Traveler, a very high-quality RPG series. Now, maybe people are tired of all the different Octopath Traveler games. I get that, but that's still a good game that they closed the show. And yet, I still haven't talked about my top games of this presentation. My top games of this presentation are games that I think should be actually yielding a lot more hype right now. Take Hello, for example. Hello is a beautiful looking game that's coming to multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch 2. And I kind of figured from the gameplay, but here in this listing, we are learning that Hello is coming from the creators of Unravel. It's a huge, heartwarming, open world game. So it's a beautiful looking open world game with cooperative play that has some awesome platforming and adventuring from the makers of Unravel. Unravel is an amazing game. But you don't know, it's a highly praised mobile platform. And so this game is actually kind of a big deal, and it's a game that I'm probably going to buy, and I think a lot of other people should definitely be considering. If you played Unravel, you should probably be more hyped for this one. Another game that I think people should be talking more about is Monster Hunter Stories 3. Now, I understand this is a story game, not the main one, right? But these stories games are good Monster Hunter games. The second one was also highly praised by critics. And so we're now getting a follow-up for more modern platforms that looks significantly better. I played Stories 2 on Switch 1, and it was a fine, enjoyable game. What we're seeing here with this footage looks to be a significant step up. That's exciting. But another big deal game that was in the show is Chronos. Chronos, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a Resident Evil game, but a sci-fi version. And so that had me really excited. It looked really good. And it's a game that's coming out across all platforms early September. It's a day-and-date title. It's coming out the same time on Switch 2 as well. So that spells good news for overall third-party support from Nintendo. We are seeing third-party support that is significant and high quality. And there has been this concern that a lot of third-party titles will come out later on Switch 2, but this is an example of a pretty big deal one that's coming out at the same time as everywhere else. And this Switch 2 trailer looks fantastic. And let me also say, for those who are unaware, this is being made by Team Blue. Their last big game was Silent Hill 2, a highly praised, commonly nominated game. This game is one of the best remakes they've gone in a very long time. This is making Chrono, and it looks fantastic. We should be excited about it. This is a big deal. And yet, my original game of the show, after actually playing the demo that exclusively came out on Switch 2, it's coming out across all platforms, but the debut demo came out exclusively for Switch 2 after the showcase, is the Adventure Rebellion The Millennium Field, the second to last title was announced in the showcase. And while you may have seen this game and saw, oh, okay, it's another HD 2D game, but this is not just another HD 2D game. This is a little different. This is an action RPG, so it's a little different from typical HD 2D RPG games. But after actually having played it, it is obvious. This is basically next generation 3D top-down stuff. That's a clear, obvious inspiration. I may even make my own dedicated video on this game itself, and so it feels a lot like a modern, next generation, two-dimensional Zelda. More modern than Echoes of Wisdom in a lot of ways. Visually, it's striking, you can cut grass, you throw bombs like you would in a Zelda game. There's some really cool attacks, you even have a fairy, so it definitely reminds me of Ocarina of Time a little bit in that way. I couldn't stop playing this game. It's very, very good, and it's something that you can download for free on the Switch 2 eShop. So, if you're a Zelda fan, I strongly recommend you give this a try. If you like Zelda, even a little bit like me, you're probably going to play this game and realize just how good it is, and probably start to think that this partner showcase is a lot better than what you thought it was at first. And so with all this in mind, I think you actually could make a legitimate argument that this might have been the best partner showcase yet. Not as good as a big Careful, right? Those are bigger presentations of a lot more games, including a lot of first-party titles, which are pretty substantial, especially for the Nintendo core fan base. But we're just talking about partner showcases, it really might be the best one yet. But there's a game I haven't mentioned, which further cements, I think, this partner showcase being a pretty good one. And that's Hyrule game. With this latest trailer, I am now theorizing a lot more about this game from a Zelda lore perspective. The things they showed right here. I talk about that in the update.
Ahora sí vamos a chingarnos a este cabrón.
Initially disappointed with the presentation until I took a deeper look at things. And that's that this trailer for Hyrule did not give us a release date. We're now this late year, we still don't have a release date for Hyrule to be approved. And something else to point out, we don't see or Nintendo's taken a long time to give us clarity on the exact closing lineup of this year. And so many more will have heard about it. We did just get some recent news on it before June 30th, and still, at June 30th, Nintendo is slated for this year, 2025. Remember, this winter still would be this year or only next year. And Metroid Prime 4 Beyond still is being set to be a 2025 release. So 7 months into the year, and they still maintain that Prime 4 is coming out this year. For them to make the game have to make it out this year, I think they probably would have.
No, la cagué.
and experience canonical events led to like the viral order aging for launches switch to this race. Now that may be confusing. Australia, but it's here in the United States, but like a Google, it takes place between September and November there. And so here were these Australia's spring and at the very beginning of North America winter, so sometime between late November and early December. I think it's worth noting that high waters Egypt
Creo que la cagué durísimo.
came out November 20th of 2020, so this wouldn't be the first time we saw it high waters in a November. Grand pandemic I know this now this is the launch of waves are going to go down start taking this person seriously again. That's great. But I come away from this direct murder showcase. Yes, there's questions about what's going on, right? But I think that there is a game right that are trying to make it kind of easy, but, you know, probably by September. And I kind of speculate maybe possibly sooner just because it is very late in the year. It's the weekend. And maybe we'll talk more on this in a later video. Still, this part of the showcase is actually pretty good. Pretty exciting games that were here, and thank you for giving us a closer look and giving them a try. Give it a try if you're a Zelda fan. I think you're going to really like it. Anyways, everyone, this is my great restart. Thanks so much. Take care.
Mega Destroyer.
Les voy a dar una opinión que puede servir
Bájame ustedes.
mencionar esto cuando pasen los días. Le metieron 7 a Vegas de las 5 le metieron a Cruz también con 7 conmigo. ¿Qué puedo decir con esto? Que seguramente no estaba tan parecido a la gente. Ahí sí la gente no está, estoy diciendo, me quitaste el centro de este inútil que falló. Es muy importante porque que no es importante en estos momentos la cama. Digo, había que probar y hay que probar porque ya no puede ir se dice en la elección, no magnífica, por en la elección, hoy me parece que no es momento de sacarle las cuentas, pero sí creo que la presión le recorta la vida. Si Larcamón tiene 37 años ahorita, va a parecer de 63 cuando se pare la próxima vez en Seúl, porque la presión va a estar brutal ahora. Este plantel está con Larcamón o no está con Larcamón. Este plantel va a tener la capacidad de dar la cara y presentarle a la afición una respuesta de vergüenza, porque yo creo que a partir de esto, o te destruyes o vuelves a renacer como plantel. Y este plantel, yo creo que tiene talento, yo creo que tiene capacidad para ver ayer en mi marca cuando que había, y si se queda el socios, que no sabemos si valida o no la cooperativa que dice el último día. Yo no sé si es una exageración, pero ¿cuál es el afán desde adentro de soltar esa información que normalmente es información que guarda con mucha secrecía el club? ¿Qué están queriendo hacer ahí? ¿No te parece que todo el tema Anselmi, Alonso, Sánchez, ahora Larcamón, Alonso, Cardascio, Jesús Martínez, todo eso está como muy rebotado?
Históricamente el mayor rival de Cruz Azul no es el América ni ninguno. El mayor rival de Cruz Azul es el propio Cruz Azul, porque se da un fenómeno de implosión cuando la cosa está mal.
Ok.
Muy bien el Cruz Azul, también desde adentro emerge, surge cualquier cantidad de problemáticas, cualquier cantidad de escándalos, siempre incluidos en decisiones extrañas en cuanto al manejo de los dineros. Surgen distintas versiones que si uno tiene un contrato de cliente de comisión que no sería como para emitir discusiones, pero cuando están en el terreno, cuando la cosa que permea que tiene, que ha tenido históricamente, tendría que tener muchos partidos, tendría que tener muchos más trofeos, historias, tendría que tener muchos más de lo que les construye, pero no lo hemos conseguido porque ellos mismos históricamente que generan ellos mismos las pasiones, los conflictos, es una pena y el futbolista llega a su trabajo es su empleo con las notas de ambiente laboral y le ha pasado al futbolista que sigue.
Bueno, Mario, ¿qué hay que hacer? O sea, hombre, cuando yo quiera ver poder, me están dando la posición, seguramente mi capacidad va a sacar adelante como quisiera, poder cambiar capacidad de buscar las líneas, de alterarse más.
me dieran la oportunidad. Porque solamente hay personas que las cosas son tremendas. Yo pensando por él, porque él se equivocó. Él se equivocó en todo. Y de eso si le dan la oportunidad, él lo puede revertir y lo puede hacer. Y pensando por él, él quiso poder subir una actitud más humilde. Y eso dice la verdad. ¿Qué tal sobre simplemente tratar un poquito de ser y saben ellos que se equivocaron también. Que es, si le dan la oportunidad, puede ser pero sin duda, por supuesto, pero para quien se quiera mejor perdida
Get out your calendars, we're running down the biggest releases for PS5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch 2s this fall. Coming up on next week's Watch. Actually, next week.
show following all the latest games for the latest gaming hardware. I'm David Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Max Scoville, he who hosts Podcast Beyond, and Ryan McCaffrey, he who hosts Podcast. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Hello. We are halfway through the summer event season. We've got a pretty good idea of what the fall game release schedule looks like. There is, of course, a Nintendo Direct happening tomorrow when we're recording this. It's supposed to be focusing on third-party games, so I wouldn't expect a release date for Metroid Prime 4, but we could get release dates for things like Elden Ring, Star Wars Outlaws, or maybe a Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's also Gamescom coming up next month, and then Tokyo Game Show in September. But as of today, I think we have a pretty good idea what the majority of the big release dates are this fall. So get out your calendars and your day planners, and you're ready to make your playlist of what you plan to play on your PS5s, Xboxes, Nintendo Switch 2s, and PCs this fall. And I think we kick things off in September with probably Borderlands 4 on September 12th. And it's been a while since the last Borderlands. I know there's a big community for this game. There's been a little bit of a rocky road to launch, because the head of Gearbox, Randy Pitchford, is one of those guys who just seems to not know when to just...
A PR guy's worst nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. But how are you feeling about Borderlands 4, man?
I've probably said this on the show before. Even though I love action RPGs like Diablo and I love first-person shooters, I've somehow just never personally clicked with Borderlands. Played a bunch of the first one. But the good news here is that our previewer from not too long ago traveled north of...
Jonathan, Yanes, gracias por las palabras bonitas.
And yeah, you're right. I think that's not going to be one of the first. So, yeah, I'm
Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3 in July. And this one, but this one, it just seems like a tighter this one is zombies playing melee game.
Este es buscando LGF.
No, estoy llegando a las 1000 kills para allá. Solo me falta terminar el juego y tener 1000 kills. Tenía como 900, entonces necesito 1000 kills y creo que aquí es el lugar más fácil para esa meta. Ese trofeo. Estoy platineando. No, ya lo tengo. Ya estoy en el disco 4, solo esperando a Ultimecia.
Los Luigi Mexa Browse y apoyamos a Guire Stremindo. https://www.youtube.com/@luiginexus/join.
Big first party release this year, really the only one so far. I'm excited for this. What's your sort of feeling about Ghost of Tsushima? I think it's going to be a great game. I mean, if it takes what the first game did and refines it even slightly,
Recuerdo pays este Hugo on el 2005 si no más recuerdo.
Para mí es el mejor juego jamás creado este.
I jumped back into Tsushima a couple weeks ago just to get a feel for it and see how it felt, after playing Shadows. And it's such a different game. And I don't know, this one, it seems like they're really kind of doubling down the almost just sort of dreamy cinematic feeling of the first one. The first one had Kurosawa mode, black and white, and samurai movie. And this one has actually head mode, which has more blood and shape the camera angle, and it's going to be awesome. It's really fun. Also, again, it is a dedicated PS5 PS4 game. Yeah. And Ryan, I know you have that PS5 Pro. Like this weekend, ready to go. Yeah, I like the first one. I just ended up finishing it, but it just got such a vibe to it.
CS Realista no Q Pasalo Pork Law version que tenía era en español YLG Final C Pagada. Solo
La versión en español no se podía pasar.
Is set to deliver, and yeah.
Ahorita nos aventamos el final.
Si Pagada on el último G Fira en error de esa version.
Sí, es bueno, lástima, no pude pasarlo porque la versión que tenía era en español y el jefe final se pegaba. Solo la versión en inglés era que se podía, pero llega hasta el último jefe, un juegazo. ¿En serio es eso? ¡Wow! ¡Qué decepción! Yo lo jugué en inglés, entonces yo tenía la versión original del Play 1 en inglés. ¿De dónde eres o cómo consiste una versión en español? Aquí en México vendían la en inglés. Ahí lo compré 2 veces. No entiendo cómo que se pegaba.
something to give it some reps with.
October 3rd, when that work on Swiss 2, less than a month. And then October 10th is the instinct day, because I think that's the release date for Battlefield 6. But I believe there's like some preview events happening now, so when this
No for the
episode
Venezuela
is released, I think we'll probably know the release
on
date, so let's get
2005
clarified, is that right?
Ah.
version
I just
on
know
Spaniel
I've
Pirata
got
YL
the event
Disco
set up,
4
it's
C
literally
Pagada Era and Eraron.
Ya. Qué feo.
Y tenía Resident Evil 3 también Lopez. No olviden suscribirse al canal y darle like. Nunca tuve Mugo Original XD.
Nunca tuviste juego original. Estaba leyendo que se crasheaba el juego, pero si usaba ciertos hechizos nada más. O sea, técnicamente sí le podías ganar.
Yahoy on dia tengo 36 anos de los ayudas solo me gusta version.
No, ¿cómo que dejaste los juegos? Hay que regresar a jugarlos. Es una alegría.
CC crashaba pero en aquel entonces yo era un niño y para colmo tampoco había una página que te ayudara.
Compusita de la chingada.
Earnings call was that it would be out by whatever their fiscal whatever, which in the real world on the real calendar meant by March 31st, and coming out right ahead of Call of Duty Black Ops 7's inevitable late October release date seems like a bad idea. Like, Battlefield has really, I mean, they've lost that war, that Call of Duty versus Battlefield war that they very willingly participated in for many, many years. But maybe it's going to be different enough. I mean, it's got, it's a larger scale. We'll see. I mean, we'll see if I'd be a little surprised if they're going to drop it in October, but I suppose those EA shareholders want those holiday dollars, so maybe that's
they have some good input on how to launch a video game, as demonstrated by
Ahí está, 100 kills, 1000 kills.
2042.
Ahora sí, vamos con Ultimation.
5 and Battlefield 4. Like I don't know. It would be nice if they gave it a few extra months. It would be cool if it was a holiday release, but it needs to be in fighting shape, if you'll excuse the pun. Because these games, they have such an awful track record of launching in just a really, a poor condition, and it's that they've been very transparent in getting a lot of community feedback and getting a lot of quasi public focus testing, what have you, and that I'm sure they're taking all that stuff into consideration. But at the end of the day, like there's still a lot of fine tuning and polish that needs to go into a quadruple A game like this.
Yeah, it's been a while since Battlefield was relevant, so that'll be one to watch. The leak date was October 10th. And that same day is also Little Nightmares 3. I know there's a nice community around that series, and that game's been a long time coming as well. Then October 16th will be Pokemon Legends ZA for Nintendo Switch 2. That's the big Pokemon release this year. Then, Brian, October 21st, we get Ninja Gaiden 4. It's a big Microsoft play.
Yes, we do.
That's also been a long time coming.
Yeah, well, yeah. The Year of the Ninja, Damon, which I know you're as excited about as I am, is going really well so far. So Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, of course, was a shadow of a drop at the beginning of the year with the Xbox developer.
Ultimesia.
And now, yesterday...
Se llama Ultimesia. Ay, bueno, creo que ya sí le gano, si no... Ok. Del 60. Más de 60. Creo que sí. Counter. Hit 40. Y Evasion 3.
T Lavasil Heroica Creo KC Lama C Muaris T Revive.
Sí, tengo, pero igual tengo el mod este que me vuelve súper fuerte, entonces... Miren. Entonces,
Uneta Los Luigi Mexa Browse y apoya a seguir streamando. https://www.youtube.com/@luigimexa/join.
Magic, Draw. Yep. Más 80.
Ella, yo cuando legal finaliz vos me mataba de un hit tengo que ver si no te mata.
Pero tengo como la trampilla de que... Es que lo quería platinear, entonces lo estoy haciendo rápido. Tengo como la trampilla del juego de que... Irving, GF, bajamos Eden. Este... Ok. Verifiquemos nada más. Y vamos por este tan deseado platino. Deben de faltar 2 trofeos. Sí. Ok, sí, bueno, vamos a salvar después de todo el desmadre que hice. Vamos a salvar en el segundo slot. 29 del segundo slot. Ok. Esto es cine. ¿Qué onda, Alex?
Este es el último boss.
Este es el último boss.
Este no es el boss que yo digo. El que yo digo se llama Enter Alternate.
No, creo que te estás confundiendo de juego. No sé. Ah, Edea es el último boss del disco 1. Pero este es el... Son 4 discos, el juego es de 4 discos.
Tu tocas una campana y tienes que correr rápido a donde está est no SSK.
Ah, Omega, Ultima Weapon. Sí, la acabo de ganar. Sí, pero ese boss es opcional.
Nexus Luigi Nexa Browse y apoyame seguir streamando. https://www.youtube.com/@luigi-nexus/join. SSLKYO TV East Mogada Hitlistama no Viol Poli.
Sí. Sí, me mató de hecho. Foto y mi cosa me mató. Qué buena rola. Ahí viene la compresión del tiempo. ¿En serio comparan esto con Final Fantasy 7? Lo triste es que le comparan. Piensan que Final Fantasy 7 o 9 son mejor que esto. Es increíble, este es el mejor juego en la historia. Vamos a ver este guato. No, Idea se sacrifica por todos nosotros. Oye, pero